Hi, everyone, and welcome to Building a 12-Week Year Planner with Notion. I'm so happy to have you here today. We'll be starting soon. Feel free to type into the chat where you're from, how long you've been using Notion, and your experiences with it. I actually messed up the time a little bit, so I'm starting the stream 1 hour earlier than scheduled on YouTube. But hopefully, if you missed this, you can catch it later when it's a recording. To briefly acquaint you with today's event itinerary, first I'll be going over an introduction, then I'll cover what is the 12-week year concept and some best tips and ideas. After that, we'll be building our own 12-week year planner today, and then there'll be a Q&A section, and then I'll show you how to download freebies and all kinds of other information that could be useful for you. So let's dive right in. So first of all, the Organized Notebook specializes in designing Notion templates that can help you optimize your workflow, organize data, and increase productivity. My name is Sara, and I've been using Notion for several years now, and I just think that it is one of the best tools for creative productivity. So you can really mold it to your own needs and create really interesting things and do productivity in a way that matches your needs. So I think it's really cool. No workspace is the same, and it's always interesting to discover new things as well as figure out all of these things that you can do with new updates that Notion keeps coming out with. Make sure to check out the website for free resources and freebies for beginners to get started with Notion. I'll be putting this into the chat for you. And a few notes about the event. Add your comments and questions into the chat. Please keep the conversation respectful and about the event. There is a lag, so I'll be able to answer most questions at the end, but please type your questions and I'll try my best to answer them when they're relevant and when it's a good timing. Just a friendly reminder, this chat is for discussing about this event and Notion related topics. Messages not relating to these will be moderated and removed as needed. So what is the 12-week year concept? And feel free to type into the chat. Are you familiar with the 12-week year concept? Have you read the book and tried out this concept yourself? What was your experience with it? So basically, the 12-week year concept is a method introduced by Brian B. Moran and Michael Langton in the book, The 12-Week Year. And this is an approach that allows you to achieve your goals through an urgent timeline, effective execution, and process control. So what this means, and this is especially relevant at this time of the year because it's almost April 1st, but we usually tend to set a lot of goals at the beginning of the year. I think that's also a great thing to do because there's just so much energy surrounding the new year to really make a change in your life and do new habits that could help to make your lives better. But at the same time, around March or end of March, it starts to get sort of difficult to keep up with these kinds of resolutions. But with the 12-week year, instead of thinking of the year in 12 months, you think of the year in 12 weeks. So each week you can make a lasting change that could be something that could even take you normally a month. So it's a really great way to have this urgent timeline and really see the results happen in shorter spurts. So I think this is really motivating, and I really like the 12-week year approach myself as well. So you can redefine your year into 12 weeks. So year is no longer 12 months, it is now only 12 weeks. Get out of the trap of annualized thinking. You can create a sense of urgency. So every week, every day, and every moment is important. Start your journey with a vision. Set a vision that you are emotionally connected with a clear reason why you're strongly committed. And this meaningful vision will pull you through challenges and overcome difficulties. So when you think of the year into 12 weeks instead of 12 months, you can really do a lot. And it's almost like you have 4 years in 1 year instead of 12 months. So for planning your 12 weeks, 1 week at a time, break your 12-week goal into small parts. So it's really important to break down your 12-week time into weekly plans with daily actions. You can plan with time blocking techniques like strategic blocks, where you can schedule time each week dedicated to uninterrupted work. You can have buffer blocks, schedule time to manage unexpected and less important tasks such as email and voicemail. And breakout blocks, a 3-hour break dedicated to activities other than work. So it's really important to also time block time where you're not supposed to be doing work so that you don't get burnt out. And in the book, it says 12 weeks is long enough to get things done and yet is short enough to create and maintain a sense of urgency. So here are the 3 most important principles before jumping in. 1 is accountability, a willingness to own actions and results regardless of the circumstances. Commitment, a personal promise that you make to yourself. Greatness in the moment. Achievement is when an individual chooses to do what is necessary to become great. So it's really important to think about these things before jumping in and to make the most out of the 12-week year. So what is included in a 12-week execution process? The first thing is the vision. So you want to think about your long-term goals and your short-term goals. Think about what you really want in different life areas like your health, business, personal, and then planning with those goals in mind. So think of where you want to be at the end of the 12-week time. Make sure to have tactics to tackle these goals. And then there's also process control, which means that you want to work with a structured system, weekly plan with detailed actions, and a week review and reflection. It's also really great when you can measure your progress. So weekly scorecards can be really useful, like lag indicators and results that you're trying to achieve, lead indicators, activities that produce the end results. So you can really think about what it is that actually means that you're progressing and how you can measure those. So time use, time blocking to spend time with clear intentions and control. So if you haven't read this book yet, I really recommend reading this book. It has a lot of great principles and things to think about that can be really useful for using the 12-week year concept. So I'm going to link the book into the chat. The next is best tips and ideas. So make sure to set goal planning to specific and measurable. So if instead of goals where you don't really know when it's actually done or how you can actually get there, it's really hard to stick with those. So it's really good when you're specific and measurable. Start positively and focus on who you want to become. Make it realistic with a bit more stretch and a deadline. Understand the cost you have to pay to reach the goal and make sure you're willing to pay that cost. So the next thing is why Notion. So Notion provides a space that's easy to customize yet digital. You can track your goals and tasks with built-in progress bars, for example. You can prepare weekly plans in a systematic manner. And you can also use prompts if you get stuck. So if you get stuck with writing and staring at a blank page, you can use prompts. Writing with prompts makes planning much easier. And with Notion, you can add templates inside databases with prompts. And this is really fun in Notion that you can design your own prompts that work for you. So whatever gets you motivated and what really works for you when you want to, for example, plan the end of the week or start the week can really be helpful. And make it a habit. We recommend you to start fresh every 12 weeks to reflect your progress better. So it's important to make this a real habit and refresh and start again every 12 weeks and assess what went well and what didn't go so well. So those are the best tips and ideas for the 12-week year. And at first it might be kind of difficult, but as you get used to the cycle of each 12 weeks, I think it gets a lot easier to do. So the next thing is going to be that we're going to actually build the 12-week year planner inside of Notion. This is a base template for the 12-week year. So you can definitely customize it and add your own twist to this, but this is kind of like the bare bones. I did this event also last year. And this year I'm doing something very similar with this template, but I do want to showcase some of the newest features in Notion, which are database tabs. So that's going to be a new addition to this 12-week year planner tutorial. So basically in this one that we're going to be building, there's going to be my goals where you can set your vision, what you your goals are for the 12 weeks. And you can think in high level all the way to a more shorter term level. Once you have determined the goals that you really want to work on, then you can create weekly plans. So you'll have a week 1, week 2, week 3, and then you can plan all the way to week 12. And in the book, it also mentions it's really good to have a bonus week. So there's also week 13 bonus where you can extend that week to finish anything up that you think could make things more aligned with what you initially set out to do. And the databases that we're going to be building are going to be the tasks and the weeks. So in the tasks, you'll see that there's all these tasks here. And then in the weeks, there's the weeks here. And it's a very simple template. There's 2 databases and we're going to relate them to each other. So it's also a really good tutorial on relational databases as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. And if you have Notion open, be sure to follow along. And if this is going too fast for you, feel free to rewatch this and go over it when you have time available. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first step is going to be to go to the top right-hand corner, 3 dots, and then turn on small text full width. And I'm going to go ahead and name this 12-week year planner. And you can go ahead and change the icon here. I'm going to change it to a plan or a calendar like this. And then we can get started. The first step I always do when creating templates in general is to first lay out the overall structure. So there's basically 2 columns here in this dashboard. So I'm going to type / and then columns so that there's 2 columns here. On this side, I'm going to type / heading 3. And I'm going to call this one my goals and then / divider. On the other side, I'm actually going to add a call out box where I'm going to add the databases. So I'm going to use the database icon and add databases here. I think it's a really good idea to store databases in its own section so that you can make sure that you don't lose them, because they're basically the place where you store all of your data. And then we can start adding the databases here. Underneath the goals, we can add the weekly plans by typing / heading 3, and then we can call it weekly plans. And then / divider. And this is going to be where the weekly plans are going to go. And the next thing is that the my goals is all text-based. So we can go ahead and write those out already. Basically, this one is going to be a toggle list and brainstorming goals. So here you could brainstorm what kinds of goals that you might want to have inside of here. In the template, I've added in the past, like things like what life areas I could improve, what could be some actionable goals, and you can really add your own prompts here. Once you've decided on them, you can add some goals all the way at the top. And how I recommend using this one is to use a new one each time you start your 12-week year. So here, let's say that I want reading to become a bigger part of my life. And in this case, this could be more of a habit-based approach rather than a actual thing that has many tasks. So this is more like you want to make sure to read consistently over the 12 weeks so that you feel like it's really stuck and you've become more of a reader. And some other goals and things you could write here could be something for learning, like if you're trying to complete a course in Spanish. So let's say complete first course in Spanish, for example. So now that we have some goals, then we can start creating the databases. So in the databases, we're going to type /database, and I'm going to choose full page. And this allows me to create a database that is a page database. And the first one is going to be called tasks. And just so that this is really clear, I'm going to write 12-week 2025 just so that I can easily find the title of this database, I'll go ahead and add an icon. And this one's going to be a check mark like this. And then you can start adding tasks. And something that I like to do also when designing is to add samples inside so that you can easily see how it would look like. So let's say that the first task is to read 30 minutes. And the next thing is that it needs to be related to the goal. So for this, I'm going to add a select property. And this allows me to add, for example, reading goal. And then I can add a checkbox for whether or not it's done. And after that, I'll add the due date. So here, due date. And then we can add the week once we create the week database. So that's basically the task database. The next thing I'm going to do, if I go back, is to add the /database full page, just like with the tasks. And this one is going to be called the weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and type weeks. And again, 12-week 2025. If this is your first 12-week year planner that you're ever creating, then you don't need to be so careful about naming the databases. But since I have so many named weeks in my workspace, it's important to title this something very unique. So then what we're going to do is lay out the weeks. So in every 12-week year, we have 12 weeks. So each one of these is going to be week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on. And we also want to add a date, which is going to be the date start and end. So I'm going to add a date property, name this date start end like this. So for example, the first one I'm going to do would start on April 1st and I will end date on April 8th. So it would be a 1 week for week 1. And the other thing I'm going to do is that I'll add a planning database template by going to the blue button here, arrow. And every time I add a new week, I want it to show /heading 3, a planning section. And then let's say a review section to kind of recap and review if things went well, divider. And then bullet points. So now we have planning and review every time you start a new week. So we can test it out by clicking here and you can see planning and review. And I'm also going to set this one as a default. So now we basically have week 1 that looks like this. And now what's missing is a relation to the task. So I'm going to go ahead and click the plus sign here and add that relation. And I want to relate it to the tasks. And I want it to be the task 12-week and 2025. So now you can see why it's important to name it something unique. I'm going to add the 2A relation and add relation. So it's going to relate it to tasks now. From here, I'm actually going to hide this in view because we don't need to see that in the main view here. And I'm going to go back to my tasks just to check how the relation looks here. And in this case, it's a good idea to keep it here. So let's say that this first task is for week 1. I'm going to assign it for April 1st. And now if I go back to my weeks, I'm also going to add that icon here. So let's say that this one is a calendar. And if we open it up, we can see the tasks here. So the next thing I'm going to do is to hide this task. So property visibility, always hide. And from here, I'm going to actually show you a bit of the new features for the tabs. So what could be really nice is to be able to see your tasks in a database tab. So I'm going to click the customize layout and then page settings and then tabbed layout. So now you can see that there's this side and then you can create more here. I'm going to actually pin the dates up top so that you can see it clearly here. And I'm going to move over the property group this way. And this is kind of a way to hide that property group sign here. And then here I can rename this to planning and review. And then if I click the plus sign, I can now see that the related tasks can be placed here. And I can see the database here. One thing that I don't like about this is the fact that it doesn't retain any of the views that you've created. I really do hope that Notion fixes this one, because it's very tedious to create lots of different pages when none of the views actually get retained. So I'm going to hide this one in view. You can see the reading goal, the due date, and the name of the task. And basically, you can see all the tasks associated with week 1. And then I can apply it to all pages. So now I can see planning and review, and then the tasks. I can even rename this one by going here just to simply tasks. So it can look something like this. And if I go open another one, you can see that it's the same here. So this is the positive side to the tabs, is that it always shows the same type inside. The next thing I'm going to do is add a progress bar. And to do this, I'm going to add a formula. So for example, if I add formula here, and this one is going to be called progress, and I'm going to edit the formula. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tasks, and if I click dot filter, I can filter those tasks based on whether or not it's done. So if it's done, and then dot length, then I can calculate how many have been completed, and then I'm going to divide that by the tasks dot length. And then what I'm going to do is to actually multiply this by 100 and then round it. So this allows you to not have so many decimals, and then I can do something like this and save. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to change it to a bar graph and then number format to percent. So just to review that one more time, you can see the full formula here. Basically filtering current dot done, dot length, and then the full amount of tasks you have divided, and then save. So just to test it out, if you had another task here to, let's say, study Spanish, and this one is for your Spanish goal, then let's say that I finished this one, then you can see the progress reflected here. One more thing I'll do is just add this progress bar to the main view here. And to do that, I'm going to click here and then pin that here so you can see it. Apply page. So now we have the progress bar, date start, and these two nice tabs. And basically the database is set up. So if I now go to my 12-week year planner, I can start to add the linked view of that database that I just created. And I'll add the full table view here. So I can hide the database title and I see my weeks. One more thing I'll do is to hide the icon, so it's a little bit cleaner like this. And you could start by setting up your entire weekly schedule, and it would look something like this. So you would have all the dates here, and I would recommend adding week 4, week 5, and all the way until week 13 with a bonus. And once you have that, you see all of your weekly plans. So the next step is just going to be to display your current week only here. So current week. And also we can duplicate this one and call it view all. So for the current week, you can set a filter so that the date is relative to today, this week, save for everyone. So now you can see only this week. Under here, if I type /heading 3, we can display all of the tasks. and slash divider. And what's really useful for this one is to display a linked view of all of your tasks. So this would be this one, and then hide database title. And then I would recommend this one to be incomplete tasks. So you would add a filter, and then the done would be unchecked. Save for everyone. So now we have incomplete. And then if I duplicate this tab, then I can have a view all, and I'll just simply remove this filter. So this is basically the template for the 12-week year planner. You can now see incomplete, view all. And one more thing that can be useful is to add the sort. So you basically want to sort the due date by ascending or descending. So I would recommend ascending so that you can see the oldest ones, especially in the incomplete, and then the descending actually for the view all. So here incomplete, I would add ascending. Save for everyone. So now you can do this. If I click this and everything goes to done, then you can see 100% progress. So ideally, you'll just map out all of your tasks that you need to do for each week in advance, and as far in advance as you can get, so that you have a clear structure for what you plan to accomplish week after week, and measure your progress through planning and reviewing. So that's the basics of the 12-week year planner. If this went by too quick, be sure to check the replay as you build your own 12-week year. There's a lot of customization here that you can do, mainly in, for example, this database template with the prompts. You can really go very customized here so that you have very specific prompts. You can also even create another database only for your goals and then connect your tasks to those if you'd like, so that you have more space to write about each goal. You can also build it out so that you could technically use this template every 12 weeks without having to create the same one each time. So those are some ideas for the 12-week year. And I also wanted to share with you all the 12-week year planner and workbook Notion template. There's currently a 40% discount code with March 40 during checkout. This template is super customized, and I think it could be really useful, especially if you're using it alongside the book. So this is the preview for that, and you can see that each goal is a database item. And each of the weekly plans also has that progress bar, but if you click it open, you'll see that there's a lot for weekly planning that you can do here, as well as this week's tasks. There's also time blocking that you can use here for your strategic blocks, buffer blocks, and breakout blocks. And then a section for reflection, and you can even add your own score here so that you can stay motivated, and so on. So there's a lot built in here already, and then you can see your progress week after week until you get to the bonus week. You can see your tasks by incomplete, complete, and view all. And there's also a place for vision and planning, as well as final reflection for each of your 12-week years. So if, for example, you finish it, you can score. If you're planning for it, then you can score your points based on your life areas, and you can kind of go through this workbook. And then you can even start by adding your goals to this. Then if you go back and go to final reflection, you can add your final score based on your goal progress and answer all the questions. And then you can decide if you're happy with the score, what would you do differently to reach a higher score. So it has a lot more guidance on how to implement the 12-week year. So I would highly also recommend this template as well if you don't want to build out your own. Next is the Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to type into the chat. I can also answer them later if you add them to the comments as well. And also feel free to reach out to me via email if you'd like more specialized assistance or any kinds of inquiries about services or just Notion in general. So finally, there is a currently 40% discount with code March40 during checkout. I will add the link to the template into the chat in case that you're interested. And be sure to also check out the book link that I've sent out also. There's also 30% discount code if you're interested in the course, which can help you learn Notion through building various projects. And if you're new to Notion and want to get started with some freebies, be sure to check out this one, which is the freebies link. And then finally, if you're interested in any services such as coaching sessions and custom design services, you can check out all of the services here. So thank you so much for joining today, and feel free to reach out to me at organizednotebook.info@gmail.com if you have any questions or comments after this event is over. And I hope to see you all in the next event.